Okay, so it's been quite a long time since I last painted, and I feel like I always say that, but it's been like probably a good month since I last made a real painting, and I never wanted to be one of those people that stop making art because they just get too busy. So last week, I decided to do a week-long challenge where I would just try to paint every single day of the week, and this is that video. And to be honest with you, before I started this challenge, I did have to do a painting just to make sure that I even still remember how to paint. And so this is the kind of the warm-up I did. I guess I'll show you guys a close-up. I can definitely tell that I'm really rusty, but I still went ahead with the challenge, and I think I got some pretty cool sketches out of it. Hopefully I can keep this up, and hopefully I don't have to keep doing these week-long challenges to get back into it. Hopefully I can just kind of stick with it and maybe paint once a week. But before we get started, if you want to leave a like and subscribe, I'd appreciate that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. So the challenge officially started on just some random Monday evening. I really had no plans for the painting, and I guess part of me overlooked the fact that it had been almost a month since I had last painted. But I was outside and I saw this kind of sunset, and I knew that that would be a good painting regardless of kind of how I approached it. So that really was all the confidence I needed to go ahead and just try to start painting. Okay, so this is actually the last time that I painted outside, so that was like quite a while ago. But I thought I was going to be able to get more of a sunset, but it's already changed like that quickly. So we're going to be working with, there's a little bit of something going on, but just try and separate this main tree from everything else. I don't really have high expectations for this painting, but I'm just trying to get back into the flow. So because I haven't painted in so long, I'm going to try to keep things really simple. I brought some water, my paints, and then I got this little container, and that's it. That's all I'm going to be keeping. I also have some brushes I forgot to say. Just a couple brushes. So the sketchbook I'm using for this painting and for all the paintings this week is a Stillman and Burn. I'm pretty sure it's the Zeta series, but don't quote me on that. I don't really love this sketchbook, but I decided to give it another chance, and also I really don't like the idea of this sketchbook sitting around empty and going to buy a new one, so I'm just gonna write it out until I finish this one. I don't really like this sketchbook because it sort of feels like the paint just sits on top of the page, especially when I'm using watercolor. With gouache, I can kind of get away with it, but with watercolor, it really feels like the paint sits on top of the page. But I was able to make do, and I think it's okay. It's an okay sketchbook. One of the things that I was really proud of and honestly pretty surprised about in this painting was that I was able to get a pretty convincing gradient in the sky of the blue and the yellow without mixing them too much, and I'd have no clue how I did it. I really was expecting there to be a lot of green and to have to cover that up, but for some reason it just kind of worked out well. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably because I was using very muted colors, and the yellow ochre it's very pigmented, but it's more muted than other yellows. And so I think that kind of helped avoid the green. And I also think that I let the blue dry enough, and so while there was mixing, there wasn't there wasn't a huge amount of color coming from the blue to the yellow. Okay, so this is what people talk about when they say that the light changes so quickly. Like 5 minutes ago we had like a nice sunset, and then now all of a sudden it's pretty much pitch black outside. So I'm gonna put in a couple lines just so I know what I'm gonna do in the future with this painting, but then I'm gonna go inside and probably finish it up there. And so from here on out, this is essentially completely from memory, or just from whatever I want it to look like. And I think sometimes I almost like doing that more than plein air, because then I'm just kind of working with the composition and not so much trying to think about what's actually in front of me. And I think that actually turned out pretty good. So in a second here we're going to see the final painting. Yeah, I think it turned out pretty cool. I like the overall, just like the gradient, and I think I could improve it next time if I just took out some of those darkest colors. Okay, so then came Tuesday. You can essentially ignore me sitting down by the lawnmower. My microphone was kind of messed up, or I think I had my phone flipped, whatever. But basically I was just saying that I had some yard work to do, and so I went ahead and got the yard work done, but then I had to go and set up a painting as well. So while I've been away from painting, I've been trying to start a little bit of a garden, and it's actually been going pretty good. I think this is the first time that I've ever put a consistent effort into trying to grow something. And I have these pumpkin plants. The one I just showed you here is kind of struggling because I didn't put it into the ground right when it started sprouting. It's kind of been a while. So I wanted to get on top of that and try and at least give it a second chance at growing. But so basically I planted that in the ground. These two seeds never sprouted, and honestly I think they're gone for. I don't think there's any chance of bringing them back. But I have some lettuce and some pumpkin plants, really. That's all I'm growing. But after all that yard work, I decided to grab a plant that I had sitting in the front yard and just try to set up a little still life with it. So the whole goal for this painting was to keep it mostly just watercolor. Now I don't typically like to work that way because I feel like my watercolor paintings never end up looking as finished as my gouache paintings. So I wanted to try to combat that and just try to practice watercolor. But as you're going to see later on in the painting, I don't stick to that for very long. I end up adding colored pencils and a little bit of gouache into the painting. And I think that's okay. The goal was to keep it watercolor, but I think if I got a painting done that I'm happy with, that's fine. Either way. Because I kept this painting mostly watercolor, aside from some of the leaves, I really felt like I kind of almost had to use color pencils. I kind of feel sort of weak when it comes to watercolor by itself. I'm not sure if that's like the kind of paint I use or just I'm not very good with it, but I always feel like color pencils kind of solidify what I mean and kind of do a better job of like doing hard lines and hard details. So I always try to add that in. So Wednesday came around and I actually just never made any art that day. But on Thursday I actually was lucky enough to get to make some art. So I got home pretty late from school, and I really spent a lot of the evening doing my homework and just everyday sort of stuff. But eventually when I made a little bit of time to paint, I worked from a reference which I thought was super cool. And it's public domain, so if you want to do the same reference, I'll try to put it in the description if I remember. So I hope now you guys can see a little bit of what I mean when I say that the paint sort of sits on top of the page instead of sinking in. It's kind of a weird thing. It almost feels like this is, it almost feels like I'm painting on like a business card or something like that. But I mean, I was able to get through it, and so it's not that bad, but it's a little bit disorienting, I'd say. But other than that, this painting was going really smoothly. I started off with watercolor, just so I can kind of place in where I wanted the colors, and I really wanted the sky to be watercolor, just to contrast, because I knew I was going to come in and make the mountains and everything else and kind of in the front view, everything else kind of in the foreground out of gouache, so I wanted that sky to kind of contrast against it. In an attempt to sort of blend out the sky, I came back over top of it with just a wet brush, and I was able to kind of blend out some of those lines, but it also sort of peeled up some of the paper, leaving me with these little rolly bits of paper. I ended up coming back in with colored pencils, so that sort of smoothed everything over, but for a second I was a little bit worried. Overall, I think this painting came out probably the best out of all of them from this week. I really liked how I did the sky, and I think it turned out pretty good. So then Friday came around, and unfortunately, I didn't go out to make any art. But when Saturday came around, I woke up early and I got out to go to a park nearby. Okay, so it's Saturday. This is probably going to be the last day of the challenge. I wasn't able to stick to it every day, but I did think 3 or 4 out of the days of the week. So yeah, I think today's gonna be the last day. I'm heading to the park, and then I'm gonna head home and try to get this video edited. Starting to rain a little bit, and that's kind of worrying me a bit, but I think we'll still be able to paint, hopefully. If not, then I guess I'll paint on Sunday, but whatever. Okay, so I just went out to kind of scout a place to paint, and it definitely is raining, but I think we can pull through and still get a painting done. So there it is. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took me kind of a while to edit this one and get back into the flow of editing and filming and stuff, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to watch a video that I think you would like, click the video on top. And if you want to watch one that YouTube thinks you would like, click the one on the bottom. And as always, thanks so much for watching. See you later. Bye.